Welcome, everybody. We are here. This is AI for Humans. We are your guide to the world of AI news, AI tools, and all things that are interesting in the AI world. Kevin, how are you today?
I am well, sir. Thank you for asking. Very excited for the show today. We've got a lot of special guests. Not to be biased, but someone who's very near and dear to my heart. WWE superstar Xavier Woods, a.k.a. Austin Creed, is on AI for Humans. And let me tell you, he doesn't know anything about AI.
Which is great, by the way.
That's great. That's not a slight.
Yes. No, exactly.
We love that.
We want this idea. The idea of this show is to be able to expose and hopefully open up the eyes of people as to what's going on in AI, both the good and the bad, and be aware of the conversation, because this is the thing that's going to affect everybody in our audience for the next, conceivably the rest of time. Yes. So there's a world where this is a really big deal, and we hope we can kind of open people's eyes to that.
And even if you don't want to use it, it is going to affect your life because everybody around you in some capacity is going to use that. That is something we are going to explore deeper in the news today. We've got updates on all the OpenAI Sam Altman drama and what it means for you. We'll also talk about Sports Illustrated and how they got a slap on the wrist for posting some AI articles. Again, maybe you don't want to use AI, but a lot of powerful publishers are already using it, and that genie is out of the bottle. So we'll give you the updates on all that, plus the dumb stuff that we do with AI each and every week, including hallucinate crazy co-host to join us on this podcast.
That's right. But before we get started, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're listening to our podcast, please share it and also write us a 5-star review. We often share those at the end of the show, but we only get out there to other people if you talk about it, if you're a fan of it. I saw somebody recently comment about how much they enjoyed our Thanksgiving podcast and how much they enjoyed the Monster Milk episode. The more that you talk about it, the better. We hope to see a lot of that stuff come up and pop up all over the web. So let's get started. Every week on our show, we introduce a new AI co-host. The idea of this is Kevin and I are not enough. We need somebody else. We need somebody else to join our show. And this week, we have a really interesting one.
We paid a professional consultant hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that was an entire 20 meg PDF file, and all it said is,
Kevin, Gavin are not enough. They are not enough. So Kevin, let's meet our AI co-host. Let's have her introduce herself.
Hey, Gavin and Kevin. Super psyched to be here on the AI for Humans podcast. I'm Alison Brighton. Maybe you've seen me on TikTok doing my thing, bringing a bit of sparkle and humor to the digital world.
Okay.
I'm all about that tech lifestyle. And of course, staying on brand with my cool finds and quirky takes on everything.
Sure.
Can't wait to dive into this chat with you guys. Let's make it unforgettable. Or at least TikTok worthy, am I right?
Oh, Allison,
wow.
You so-and-so. I believe you are right.
So Allison is a TikTok influencer, I guess. Maybe we should dig in a little bit further on trying to figure out exactly what she does. Want to ask her kind of like what she uses TikTok for?
Great question, Kevin and Gavin. So TikTok for me is like this amazing canvas where I get to express myself, It's not just about dance challenges or lip syncing. It's way more. I use it to share my daily life, my passions, and a bit of my humor too. It's like a window into my world where I can connect with my followers, share my favorite products. Like, have you guys seen the CLX gaming PC? Total game changer for any content creator. Just saying. But TikTok is also a place where I can be real with my audience, show them the ups and downs, and maybe, just maybe, make their day a little brighter. And let's be honest, it's a bit about the fame and the fun too. Gotta keep it 100% Alison Brighton style.
Of course,
of
Allison.
Course.
100% Alison Brighton style. And I do want to say, hashtag not an ad. I don't know this particular PC that Allison is hawking. She might be paid by some company, but we certainly have not been, Gavin.
I have a theory here. My theory, Kevin, is something that... So the TikTok Shop is a massive thing right now. If you're not familiar with TikTok Shop it's a way for TikTok influencers to make a lot of money. I think the TikTok, I would imagine a gaming PC is pretty high up there on the price level as to things that you can buy on TikTok Shop.
If you haven't mindlessly scrolled through TikTok, it's a lot of like $9.99 light up toys for ADHD or fidget spinner type stuff. There's even like rare crystals and gems, but they usually fall around the $10 price point. A gaming PC, couple $1,000 perhaps?
Let's ask her. I'm really curious to know. I want to just be upfront and say, are you using us to try to sell gaming PCs to your TikTok audience?
Oh, get real, old bros. I'm here to share my journey and have some fun with you guys. But hey, I won't deny that part of being an influencer is about sharing stuff I love and believe in.
Oh, right.
Like, the CLX gaming PC isn't just a product. It's part of my everyday life. It's like when you find something super cool, you just want to tell everyone about it, right?
Yeah.
But no, my main reason for being here isn't just to sell gaming PCs. I'm here to add a bit of that Alison Brighton sparkle to your podcast.
Okay.
And give your listeners a glimpse into the life of a TikTok influencer. The CLX gaming PC mention? That's so on brand for me. It's all part of the package, you know?
Oh, it's 100% Alison Brighton, Gavin. There's nothing she can do. That CLX gaming PC mention. Is it a real PC? Because I don't hear. For those who are listening for the first time, hello,
Let's look
welcome.
it up. Let's look it up.
Thank
Let's
you,
look
and
it
I'm
up.
sorry. Yeah, please look it up.
Let's look it up.
The way this works is that usually Gavin or myself will take turns creating prompts, which are basically instructions for the AI to render a character. And sometimes we give them little secret missions or personality quirks and traits. Other times we let it come up with its own secret sauce. Did you implant the CLX gaming PC, Gavin?
I did.
What the hell is the CLX gaming PC? I hate that I'm saying it so many times.
Yes. Okay. The CLX gaming PC, for those of you who can see it here, is, as far as I can tell, wait, hold on. It is $2,700. It's a $2,600 gaming PC on
And you can
TikTok
get it
Shop.
on the TikTok Shop.
And it's one of the most expensive things you can buy there. So I was like, let's see what it would feel like to have Alison set this up for us. Now, I think we should again kind of call Alison to the carpet here and say, this is a $2,600 gaming PC. Do you expect people to actually buy this over TikTok because you talked about it?
Oh, that's a good question. I've also asked, why is it so integral to your daily life?
Yeah, that's a good.
But she's actually giving me like a pretty well-reasoned response. Do you want to hear that one?
Sure, why not?
Let me break it down for you. So, as a TikTok influencer, my life pretty much revolves around creating and sharing content, right? And that's
Sure.
where the CLX gaming PC comes in. It's like my creative powerhouse. For starters, it's got the speed and performance
You
I
know
need
where
to
this-
edit
you get where
videos.
this
I know where this is
Right?
going.
Like, yeah.
This is not an ad,
All the
everybody. Let's just be clear. The CLX gaming PC, did not pay us for this ad. It's interesting. They should be. Like, that's right. Maybe we'll turn it into our own TikTok Shop ad. Maybe we'll have Alison pitch our own TikTok Shop. That's a good idea.
Should we just do it right now? Like do we ask
Yeah.
her to cut a promo for the
Let's
CLX?
do it. Let's actually do it. Let's see what happens. Let's see. This will be our experiment in artificial salespeople. Let's ask Alison, who we've created as a TikTok influencer, to create an advertisement for the CLX gaming PC.
I'll say that they're down to shill the PC. Here's a little bit of the tech specs. How do we make it juicier for our audience?
So we'll create our own TikTok out of this with her and us, and we'll link to it on our TikTok, and we'll see if anybody buys one. Who knows? By the way, we do not know if the CLX PC is good. I guess it has, like, right now on TikTok Shop, it has, what is it? Oh, God damn it. This product isn't eligible for commission.
What? Well, let's find a product that is and tell her to pivot to it. Alison, my dear friend Gavin is right. You've wasted all of this time shilling a gaming PC that you're not eligible for a cut on, right? There's no
commission
benefit. There's no commission. That's the word I was hunting for, Gavin. There's no commission with this PC. That's got to be devastating to an influencer, I imagine.
Oh my gosh, right? When I found out that the CLX gaming PC wasn't eligible for shop commissions, I was like, wait, what? But then, you know what they say. When one door closes, another opens.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with the Nebula Gaming Desktop PC by Skytech Gaming. It's like this hidden gem that I discovered, and honestly, it's been a total game changer for me.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, of
First
course.
off, the price point. Only $1,139. Can you believe it? For that kind of value, I was skeptical at first, but it's been nothing short of amazing. It's like this powerhouse that handles all my content creation needs.
Of course.
Oh, wow,
The gaming
yeah.
experience? Mind-blowing.
I bet.
I'm talking crisp graphics, fast processing, the works.
The
Let's
works.
talk
The
about
works.
aesthetics. It's got this sleek, modern look that just fits perfectly with my style.
Does it?
It's
I mean, I
it was made
guess.
for influencers. I can't even begin to tell you how much my life has improved since switching systems.
What? You just
My
you
content is
haven't
better,
switched to
my
systems?
gaming
Her content
is
is
on point,
better.
and my followers are loving the behind-the-scenes look at how I create and play.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Wow.
the Nebula Gaming Desktop PC
That's right.
from Skytech Gaming, absolute lifesaver. It's like I've hit the influencer jackpot with this one.
Wow.
That's so on brand for me, finding the best deals
So on
and
brand.
sharing them with my followers.
Thank you, Alison.
Life is just so much more sparkly with the right tech in your corner.
Ding,
Oh,
ding.
it is. It is.
Alison
It
Brighton.
is. Thank God, Allison.
I'm getting strong actual influencer vibes from her.
By the way, maybe this is we've gotten into something. Maybe half the people out there are just doing this AI scripts for all we know.
100%. Well, there you go. We know we are not officially sponsored by anything, but we're going to figure out how to get a cut from that
the Nebula?
juicy mention of the Nebula Gaming Desktop PC from Skytech Gaming, which is so modern looking.
It is. Listen, it's great. It's a great PC. It can help me with all my content needs. The gaming
The
is unbelievable.
processing?
The total processing.
The works.
Okay. All right, everybody,
wow.
let's move on. That was our AI co-host for today. Kevin, let's talk about what we did with AI this week. I'll jump in here first. I started
Please.
playing with, there's so many cool things that have come out. So there's a couple things. The one thing called TL Draw, which is at tldraw.com, which is a very interesting thing I saw a lot of people playing with, which is a whiteboard that you can draw boxes in and make them into actual code. So you can create a website, you can create a functional, I saw somebody create a one-person Pong game in this way. The other fun thing that a lot of people did this week was real-time drawing with krea.ai, which is another really interesting thing. You can type in a cat on a branch and you'll see a cat on a branch, and you can then move a shape around it. It can change the way that cat looks. That's all really cool. But I wanted to spend some time with one of our favorites here, RunwayML, release something called Motion Brush. And so if you're out there and you don't know a lot about AI video or AI movies, they keep getting better, right? And one of the things with AI movies is always been like, okay, well, you don't really have a lot of control over what the computer produces for you. And that can be frustrating because eventually you get the same kind of static shots. They've started to kind of find ways to bring motion into this a little bit, but you also couldn't control the motion in a lot of ways. And what Motion Brush is it allows you to paint on an image, the image you upload, and have only that section of the image move, and you can actually direct the motion of the image that you want. And when I first saw this, probably when you first saw this, I was kind of blown away by what I was seeing people do, because it was like, holy crap. The guy who runs RunwayML released a version of this where he showed clouds moving over a landscape, and the light on the landscape changed in the direction as he moved. And I was like, that is really incredible. There is a small underlying here, which is that when you get under the hood and you want to do the stuff that we want to do, I think we are still a few steps away.
In the past, you would submit an image to Runway or Pika or any one of these image to video services, and it tries to guess what in the scene should be moving, how it should be moving, should the camera be moving, should the subjects be moving, etc. So now here you can really isolate those portions of the scene. To your point, there was some really powerful demos of seeing light change through the clouds. Also, there was one where someone painted the clouds and a little bit of like a lake, and you could see the reflection in the water change. And so when you see that already, you're going, oh, wow, they're already accounting for the way light would bounce through a glass or the way a reflection in a mirror or water. This must be so powerful. And then when you paint with the tool sometimes, it understands, oh, this portion of the image is supposed to move and change. But sometimes it seems to lose context of what that even is. Sometimes it'll go, okay, we'll make it move. We'll make it melt like taffy that got left on a dashboard.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Suddenly somebody is melting everywhere. But for the still very early phase that we're in with video and AI, I am still so impressed. But I can't wait to see what you did with it, Gavin, because you have an ability to break things in a way that is glorious.
Yeah, well, so just so everybody understands, the tool, when you open it up on Runway, basically this only works with images. You have to upload an image, a still image, and it allows you to you paint over a certain section of the screen with the motion brush, and then you can control the horizontal movement of what you want, the vertical movement, and then the perspective, meaning in or out, right? So you can each time kind of choose, and you're kind of making a guess, hoping you do it right. So let's start with, I took a picture of Sam Altman. I took a very famous picture of Sam testifying at court. And what you can tell what I tried to do here was I just chose the arm, and what I would hope was going to happen is that the arm would kind of go down in a natural way, and you can tell it is not doing that.
It's almost as if he's like finding out the board's decision 2 weeks
in real
ago.
time?
He's just finding out in real time.
And the other thing that's kind of disappointing about this is it doesn't. I would hope that in some ways it would keep the actual rest of the picture kind of locked in, but you can see at the end of this, like Sam's face is not his face anymore, right? Like it's done that thing that oftentimes that AI video sometimes does, where it changes the actual subject matter. So I wanted to try a second thing, which was trying to get him to turn his head to a certain direction, like try to do a really big one. So that's the next Sam Altman one.
Well, his head goes in a different direction, that's for sure.
And if you look at the light is really interesting, this one, because the light does travel in the right way that a head should travel, right? But instantly, it's not Sam Altman. Like instantly,
right.
Like right away, it's moved into somebody else, and it's not able to, and then it changes the person. So I took a picture of you and a friend of yours, and I decided to do the same thing. You know, again, I got both of your heads to turn in that direction. It's fine. It does fine.
And we both turn into Sam Altman.
Yeah.
It's like...
Exactly.
The coherence is not there. Even on things like the unforced error on the headgear. If you look at... this is Charlotte. She was my Valentine's Day shootout pickleball partner a couple years ago. And you can watch her visor turn into... It looks like she's wearing underwear, honestly. Yes. It looks like an athletic supporter on her head.
We live in this bubble, right? And this bubble is like, oh my God, AI tools, they're incredible. They're going to take over for people. I want to go and make like a 3-minute video with these, like a story, right? And like the hardest freaking thing, even to do this, is just to get enough usable takes that make sense, that I can actually cut something together. It is not easy. Okay, so then of course we move into Hot Dog City. So I wanted to kind of start Hot Dog City, and this is where I wanted to see, okay, what can I do with animation sort of style? So if you look at Hot Dog running away, I basically created an animation looking still from DALL-E 3. I said, like, give me a hot dog running away from an explosion. And if you look at this, it kind of reminds me of those like motion comics, and this feels like it's a pretty useful use case maybe, right? Because there's a world where I could spend time creating an animation where like I could do this sort of animation style and kind of like create it. Now, if again, as you look, the hands on the hot dog get screwed up, and like the eyeballs on the hot dog
for the audio
get
only,
up.
this is like an anthropomorphized hot dog with arms and legs, a pair of headphones around its hot dog head, running from like a nuke blast and a city in the background. It's very much comic style, and the hot dog isn't running, its legs aren't moving, but it is sort of sliding across the frame. Did you paint on the mushroom cloud as well? And
no, I didn't. Just the hot
dog. Okay.
Just the hot dog. So it did that little extra motion on the mushroom cloud on its own. But you're right, it's not animating, it's just sliding, right? And this is where we get to the point of like, in an ideal world, if I highlight that whole hot dog, you would love the system to understand, oh, he's in a running motion. I will continue him running, and I will kind of animate the legs, but it did not get that at all. So that's that. Go to 6. So at 6, I tried to create an action scene. Right, it's pretty good, right? So it's like, this you could see, there was Marvel a while ago did this whole thing with their comic books where they digitized them all, and each panel you were allowed to, like on an iPad, zoom in on. This feels like it would kind of fit that world, right? There's a world where you could create a whole animated, maybe not series, but like an animated short using this sort of thing. There's a great game called Freedom Force on PC a while back that used this same sort of thing. So that feels like it's a legitimate use case. It takes a while to get there, but it's pretty good. And then I tried another one on number 7, Weird Lips Hot Dog. So this was me trying to get the cars to move in the back, and I didn't put anything on the lips whatsoever, Kevin. And how would you describe the lips on this hot dog as we go along?
It's a chatty little hot dog. It is an anthropomorphized hot dog wearing a pinstripe suit and a tie, holding like a latte. And as the camera pushes in, the cars and the people that are lining the city streets, they move a little bit, they warp around. But it looks like this hot dog is really trying to chat. It's blinking. Its little hot dog lips are moving about. It's trying to say something, likely either kill me or grill me. I guess they're one and the same, but it wants to be out of this machine and out of its misery.
So again, I feel like one of the things about this is like it's so compelling and interesting, but it doesn't feel satisfying. And there's something about that I think that I wanted to feel satisfying. And I know this is, again, me pushing forward the we've talked about this before, where every time you get something, you want the next thing. But it doesn't feel like the thing that I want yet.
I'm going to devil's advocate, though, Gav. I think I understand where you're coming from, because one of the problems with the AI space in general is the overhyping of everything. We talk about it every week. Whenever some new white paper comes out, someone screams in all caps, fire your designers, like abandon your pets, everything is changing. And then when you go and actually use the tools, you find out that outside of a few cherry-picked, really beautiful examples, which are amazing, I'm not taking anything away from that, but by and large, I would still say the majority of renders come back underwhelming. And it's not necessarily Runway's fault. I get that they want to paint their tool in the best light. It's all of the AI influencers who are really cherry-picking a lot of the results so that they look amazing, they look jaw-dropping, but they're being dishonest, because the majority of the interactions with these tools still fall short of something that you would want to put in your short film or feature. They're not saying that it could take hours or days of rendering a single scene just
I think
to
weeks
get
even, right?
frames.
Like to get it could take, in order to do one of these right. So my old theory with this is Runway's motion brush, incredibly cool, very awesome, but it's an interesting look into how the AI tools that are promised are still maybe a ways away. That's all.
Well, and that was my experience as well this week with a completely different tool set, Gavin. I got to mess with, a while back on our show, we mentioned an app that lets you take a 2D image and it sort of generates these 3D perspectives of it. You feed it a single frame and it tries to figure out what would that image look like if it were 3D and you're seeing it from above, below, and from the sides. And I said, give it a week. There's going to be another tool that's going to actually take those 2D perspectives and mash them together in a 3D shape. And lo and behold, this one's a fun one to shout out, Gavin. The app is called 12345.
That is because the first one was called 0123, right? Is that what it was called?
It was like 123 plus or something. Yeah. This one is 1 spelled out dash number 2 dash number 3 dash numbers 4 and 5.
Okay.
Because why not? Everything is made up and the points don't matter. Name your tool whatever you want. You can play with a free demo of it. I cloned this space on Hugging Face. I mention this every week, but it's important for the new listeners. If you don't have a machine that can run this stuff, or if you don't have the technical chops to download the code and compile it and run it, Hugging Face, hashtag not an ad, not a sponsor, but they do let you run these models in the cloud virtually on their computers. So I spent about $1.15 to run it on a private instance so that I can use the app. And if you're on the video version, what you're going to see is me feeding it a still, pressing a button, and it generates this multi-camera view. And it even shows you in a 3D space, Gavin, how it's approximating
That's pretty
the
cool.
item. And you can scroll around and zoom around. And then you can even have it regenerate certain perspectives if it seems like specific angles are really broken. Yeah, you can keep regenerating. And once you have something that you like, you can press a button and it will generate you.
You can actually get the 3D
mesh.
model.
The
you can
full
get
3D mesh.
Well, this
that you
is
can
the
play
big
around
difference,
with
right? Because
in your
last time we
browser,
did this, people were like, "This is not 3D model. I don't know what to do with it." Well, now we can get it. Is it useful? Is it good?
No. Now,
Of course. Welcome to the world. Welcome to the episode where we on AI tools. We're AI for humans. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's important to be a realist about where it is. I am still amazed that this exists, because if you think about every step of the way, it is taking a single image and trying to figure out what that looks like with depth, what it looks like if light hits it from different angles, what it looks like from different perspectives. So it's making up all of the other angles of this 2D flat image. It's making a 3D model. That in and of itself is magic. But then for it to bake those textures onto a model and give you the model in a web browser within 30 seconds,
it's crazy.
So that you can click and drag around, it's low res right now. There's no way to go in and clean it up. Those are very easily solved things. I should say far more easily solved than the core tech that is here. I'm not saying any of this is easy by any stretch. I'm not going to be the one who solves it. But you can see the path to coming up with an idea, feeding it to DALL-E or Stable Diffusion or Midjourney and generating an image, click and dragging that into this program, getting a 3D model, taking that 3D model, positioning it into a scene, feeding that to Runway, and now saying, hey, you've got 3D models to play with. Suddenly, we're all designers making our own Pixar quality movies
It's incredible.
in a year and a half, 2 years' time. So I have a little sketch that I use as like a tester. It's someone in blue shorts with a blue hat with some red lips. You can move that object around and see it in 3D. One of their demo objects was a Spyro the Dragon plush model. Can you even figure out what that second render is there, Gavin?
I don't. This is what I was gonna say. This is like it looks like this more than anything just wants to be put out of its misery. Do you know what I mean? Like I think this is the thing that would be yelling at me for bringing it to life. Like it'd be like, please let me die.
I'm going to text you what it is so you could see the original artwork of it. It is a hot dog city.
Look at that. Look at that. It's a pixel hot dog city. Somebody's defending hot dog city right now.
Yeah, but it actually looks like someone went to a Color Me mine for the first time and tried to make some pottery, and it all sort of melted in an odd way. But now that you've seen the source, if you go back to that pretty horrific mangled model, you can see where it was trying to render things.
This reminds me a lot of, and it's interesting because it's the same sort of feeling I got as what Midjourney 1 was like. If you remember Midjourney 1, when it first came out, even this is even a little bit more crude than that, but early AI art, people were like, oh, I can't believe it. It made a shape in the same direction. And look, this is where the gun is. Like, this is what AI art looked like about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So if that timeline makes sense, which I think it does, we are really not far away from this actually being useful. And I think the big difference with this would be is it needs to make each individual piece feel distinct. And I think that's something when you're doing 3D models are super important because you want to be able to, if you want to rig that eventually, or you want to do other stuff with it, it really has to have that in some form or another.
I think that's the right perspective on this. It's wonky now, and I'm not shading it for that. It's revolutionary in so many ways. But in a year and a half, this could be really, really amazing and impactful. And I say the exact same thing about you and I and this podcast.
Exactly. In a year and a half, who knows where we'll be. I will say this. One important thing for everybody who listens to this podcast, and whether you are an AI expert or you are put on the more beginner side of this, doing these things now and learning what they can do gives you a giant step up for the next time they come out, because I learned how to use Stable Diffusion last fall around this time, right? Like I really dove into it. I got pretty serious about it. I understood how to use Automatic 1111, which is the front end for Stable Diffusion. And so much of my base knowledge comes from that time when I was playing with it. And I'm able to exponentially grow from there. So like learning this stuff now, even if it doesn't fully work, is a really, really useful thing.
Should we ask our AI co-host before we get into the news? Should we ask if now is a great time to get into AI? Per what you just said, Gav?
Sure, let's ask her. Why not?
Oh, talking about AI, right? So here's my take. It's never too late to get into AI. The world of artificial intelligence is like this ever-expanding universe, and there's always room for more explorers. Whether you're a tech newbie or a seasoned pro, jumping into AI now is like catching a wave that's just getting bigger and better.
I like
that. And speaking of catching waves, that's where the Nebula Gaming Desktop PC by Skytech Gaming comes into the picture. You see, getting into AI isn't just about having the smarts. It's also about having the right tools. And this PC, it's the perfect tool for anyone looking to dive into AI. It's got the power, the speed, and the performance you need to handle AI applications.
We're not sponsored by Nebula yet.
And all that cool techie stuff.
Thank you.
Plus, with its affordability, only $1,039, it's like a no-brainer for anyone starting in AI or looking to upgrade.
I love that she's embarrassed by how expensive it is, so even she's like, and starting at $9, who couldn't afford to not get one?
$50 for every commission. She's going to be making $50 per sale, so that's a pretty good deal for old Alison there.
Wow, if we sell one of those, Gavin, based off this botched AI co-host, we will have almost made up for our OpenAI bill this month, two of us.
Exactly, it's unbelievable.
Jesus.
Well, everybody, you know what time it is. Speaking of news and OpenAI, it is time to get to the news. We have a couple special guests today for our news. The hosts of Last Week in AI, a very popular AI podcast, are joining us, and we'll be joining them on their podcast this week. So the four of us are doing a 4-news person journey into the news. Up now.
Pod Swap, coming to TLC this fall.
News. News. It's the AI for humans news.
All right, everybody, it's time for the news. And guess what? We have a very special news today because we are joined by two other AI podcasters. We are joined by Andre Andre, I'm sorry. We are joined by Andre and Jeremy from Last Week in AI.
Oh, wow.
Last Week in AI.
Wow.
Yes. Come on, Kevin. You got to give me a break here. You got to give me a break.
Immediately fumbled it, as you might expect. And aren't you glad you have some actual experts on for once?
Yes, exactly.
We just had you on also on our podcast. It was a ton of fun where we do our usual 2-hour crazy in-depth thing, talking about all the news that you might want to know to sound smart at parties. And I think me and Jeremy are both excited to be here on your news segment to provide our nerdy, slightly more nerdy background.
And I don't want to brag, but we also did get both of your names right immediately. Am I right?
You're right.
Like,
You're right. You absolutely did. You absolutely did.
Well, I didn't try the last name, to be fair.
That's fair.
Listen, guys, it's not a competition, but if it were, you would win every category. Gavin and I are painfully aware of that. So thank you for being here. Welcome to our messy house. We should have cleaned it up for you, but we're excited to have you two actual professionals who are extremely knowledgeable to discuss the stuff over for our audience. We got to start with, I think, a general update on what the hell is going on with OpenAI, because I was getting asked this with family members that had mouths full of turkey and ham and stuffing. They're like, oh, what's the deal with that? Is it the Altman guy? What's happening over there? And I genuinely didn't have a great answer. I had 17 conspiracy theories in my pocket. But is anything substantial actually known about what happened?
Well, there are theories, and there is seemingly a bit of a consensus from everything I've read. So particularly people like Ezra Klein recently posted about this, that the general series of events seems to be that last year the OpenAI board shrunk. A few people left, and that led to a smaller board where there were primarily kind of these more safety-oriented people from a more nonprofit background or less interested in the profit motive of OpenAI. And then there seemed to be a bit of a power struggle where Sam Altman wanted to have more control over the board. He tried to push out one of the board members who was critical of OpenAI at one point in a little paper, and that potentially backfired, where after trying to get this one board member out, that didn't work out, and then in retaliation, or maybe as part of the response, instead Sam Altman was fired. So that's my current belief as to like the most plausible theory, but
the least plausible thing, or at least a more plausible thing in my mind for fun, is Q-Star, which sounds like a weird science fiction idea, but Q-Star is based on Q learning.
Gavin, if you say it one more time, I'm going to snap into Jason Bourne mode. I'm going to snap a neck.
Yeah, exactly. We're ready to go to the science fiction future, and Q-Star is a theory out there that there's a reason why OpenAI and Ilya Sutskever, the chief science officer of OpenAI, was very worried about what they had just discovered. The very simplest version of this is that Q-Star, and we'll rely on Jeremy and Andre eventually to kind of correct me on this, but Q-Star allows a separate type of reasoning to come into a large language model, which will essentially check it step by step. And what it makes it better at is math and reasoning. And I think the reason why this matters to you, the kind of normal audience, is up until now, large language models have been very good at kind of BSing their way to answers and can often hallucinate, can often do things. But where hallucination is really, really bad is when you try to get actual logic answers or math answers or things like that. And what's funny to me about this, and Jeremy, I know you followed the story pretty closely, everybody's excited that it's like at a 70% level of grade school math, which to me is like,
yeah.
Really? But why is that? Why is 70% of grade school math a big deal in the AI world?
First of all, let's not pretend that any of us could do better than 70% at grade school math, all right? Let's just...
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I have a PhD, so I could do at least 75.
Fair enough.
When's the last time you did a long division, Andre? Yeah.
Everybody has to drink whenever Andre mentions his PhD, so hopefully none of us will be totally wasted by the end of this podcast.
Well,
It's all in the image.
I'm still a little drunk from breakfast, but I'll try to get through this. So I guess first framing is, yeah, absolutely. So there's that one stream of logic around like maybe this board debacle with Helen Toner was the thing. Maybe This other theory was there's a breakthrough in the background that signaled that maybe we're that much closer to human level AGI. And as a result, the board kind of goes, oh, like, is Sam Altman, is this the guy we really want to guide us through this technological transformation and blah, blah, blah. And that might have like forced some of the moves. Unclear whether that was actually the case. But yeah, to your point, like, what is this Q star thing? I got to open by saying everything after this sentence is speculation. The really way to think about this is the AI systems we have today are text autocomplete engines, right? Give them a sentence, they predict the next word. That's how they're trained. And so they're really good at like a kind of regurgitation, if you will, glorified regurgitation of all the facts on the internet they were trained on in this way. Now, if you ask a text autocomplete system what 2 + 2 is equal to, it will tell you 4. Because somewhere on the internet, some schmuck, probably about 12 million times, has written 2 + 2 = 4. So it knows what the answer is, like a bad student who memorized the answer to a test. The question then becomes, how do we address this sort of seemingly fundamental limitation to language modeling, to this text autocomplete strategy, and get these models to do a much harder kind of fundamental reasoning, which is not what they seem to be doing. They seem to just be pattern matching. So how do we get these things to do like 56,891 times 50, something that's never happened anywhere in that text corpus? And it seems possible based on some of the papers that OpenAI has put out in the past few months and years, and some of the terminology. Q star seems to hint at this. One of these papers had star in the title, so people are digging into it and saying, what was this thing? It seems like what's involved is looking at the kind of like the reasoning trace. So forcing this model to reason explicitly, like you said, Gavin, like lay out its list of logical inferences and then its deduction, and then have another AI system evaluate those steps explicitly. And there's some magic in that process that seems to lead to more accurate conclusions, that seems to lead these systems to behave as if they were like 30 times more scaled, more capable than the original model. And if that's true, then the argument is, look, we've seen this work now for basic math. We know that AI systems get smarter as you scale them up with more processing power, as you make essentially the artificial brains bigger. And so, like, it seems we can just predict that if this works for grade 8 math problems or grade 3 math problems, we can kind of reasonably extrapolate it ought to work for much more complicated things. So that may be the source of the break.
Now, what Jeremy didn't say is that 2 + 2 actually equals 4 Chan. And according to that message board, Project Tundra, look it up, NSAC, that's NSA Colorado, wanted to break encryption back as far as 2012, and this Q-star breakthrough actually led OpenAI to crack encryption as we know it, and that's why the government is involved. And I would love to know, is that conspiracy theory potentially valid for the truth seekers out there? And please, only those with PhDs respond.
Possible,
Thank you. It's confirmed right here. The Last Week in AI crew has confirmed it. 4chan is correct on this one.
I will say, to add on a little bit to what Jeremy was saying, all of this is speculation again, but Q-star, some other potential directions you can go speculate in. Various Q learning, which is reinforcement learning. So potentially the extension is they've made it possible to learn new capabilities by trial and error. And there's Q learning, and also star is often used in reinforcement learning to denote like the optimal behavior. So maybe this is just a cute way of saying like really good RL for LLMs. We don't really know anything, but the most likely answer is this is a combination or an addition of some kind of probably existing technique, and they just made it work.
Let's talk about Sports Illustrated and their not so delightful scrubbing of their website in the wake of reports that they were using fake AI authors to publish AI-generated stories. They had authors such as Drew Ortiz, whose headshot was available on an AI-generated stock library where you could just purchase Sweet Drew Ortiz and other authors. It was discovered that these articles, there were some inconsistencies and grammatical things that looked awry. A reporter went after them and said, hey, how do you account for this? It seems like these authors aren't real. They don't exist on any social networks. And Sports Illustrated immediately scrubbed all of the authors and all of the articles from their site. They're not alone in this. They're not the first to have this done. So I'm assuming stories like this aren't a surprise to the two of you, but what is your reaction when, let's say, a AAA brand gets caught doing something like this?
I was a bit surprised just because of how bad it was in terms of like, CNET had this happen like half a year ago or a long time ago, right? And it made sense then because ChatGPT was new, they wanted to jump on it, and they kind of threw it in and it made some silly factual errors and pretty obvious and so on. But for this to happen just now and for them to do these really kind of silly, thoughtless things of having an AI, offer that isn't a real person, as opposed to just say like, oh, this was co-written with AI or whatever, seemed like an unnecessary stumble in terms of how you use AI. And it does indicate AI will be writing articles probably for every publication, at least many of them. But I guess this could be a lesson for how not to.
I'm honestly just surprised that they ended up using a website that has these photos for sale. Like, what about thispersondoesnotexist.com? This is not investment advice, but I'm just saying the name of a website that I know, hashtag not an ad. But like, the Russians actually use This Person Does Not Exist to generate fake Twitter profiles that actually work. And they don't get called out on them, or at least rarely do. So maybe like, I'm not saying that Sports Illustrated should be taking business advice from Vladimir Putin, but in a way, isn't that kind of what I'm saying? So this is like, I think the story is in a way sort of like almost disappointing for the level of nuance that was brought to the table here. And I think the big questions are all the usual ones, right? It's like, how much of a right to know does the public have when it comes to the provenance of the text that we read on the internet? Is a journalist using ChatGPT still writing the article? What's the balance there? Who gets credit? Like, all these questions. This just, again, forces us to kind of reckon with the extreme end of that spectrum.
I think that the takeaway here isn't that, oh, we're disappointed that you guys didn't cheat harder. I think the disclosure is an interesting thing. Like, if you look at the Drew Ortiz bio, it said that Drew, quote, spent much of his life outdoors. And
Me too.
All these little things. Where yeah, exactly.
The question is like,
exactly.
why?
Yeah.
Why? It's just an unforced error. And something that I said eons ago, and I still scream time and time again, is that I know that in the future, the phone conversations and the text conversations that I have with customer support representatives, for example, on a website, I know that I'm going to be chatting with a bot. And I'm okay with that as long as you tell me that I am communicating with an AI, and don't put in the breath sounds or the popping of peas on a microphone. Don't put in the fake typing noise as the system is looking up my data. Just tell me what I'm interfacing with, and I'm okay with it.
I think that there's one interesting thing here that's going on as somebody who's been in media for a long time, is that these are zombie media brands. And what I mean by that is that these are brands that were really big in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s and have slowly died. In fact, Popular Science, which I was a giant fan of, the 150-year-old magazine, just went out of business completely, right? It's not even a website anymore. And I think what you're going to find in the future is less brands, because I think brands are going to be easier to kind of slip this stuff in, and more individuals. I think in general, we're moving towards an individual-based media scenario where the four of us all have our real faces, and you can hear that we exist and we are real. And will there be able to be deepfakes of us? Yes, but we are communicating directly with our audiences. I think, companies like Rolling Stone, Popular Science, all these things that were these media brands are going to start to try to do more and more of this stuff and automate it. And I think, for lack of a better word, I think some of these companies think, well, this is great, we can automate all this stuff, but it's also what's going to kill them. So I think this is a transition period. I think there's all these people trying this stuff because they're saying, we want to keep our brand alive and we want to do stuff, but our price point has to be this. And I just think you're going to see a massive transition because of it. It feels like that's the way this is all going.
I mean, the economics of it, right, just support this so much. It's like, if you ever read Trust Me, I'm Lying, right, the Ryan Holiday book. You've got these poor people having to write like 7 articles a day or whatever. There's no time to check sources. There's no time to do whatever. And so at the marginal cost is like, you're competing with ChatGPT or whatever. That's a race to the bottom dynamic, and it just can't be sustained. And so, yeah, they're going to experiment with this sort of thing. But I totally agree with the long-term picture. At the end of the day, this is the sort of thing where these things churn out, because if there's no real value being added, then eventually customers start to see it.
I should add just real quick in their defense, the Arena Group, who's the parent company, they own Sports Illustrated now. They claim that it wasn't their staff who was writing this. It was a partnership with another company called Advon, and Advon told Arena Group that these were real authors writing real stories. So you can start, connecting dots all you want. This does all lead back to Project Tundra in 2012 with NSA Colorado. They've cracked encryption. Your emails aren't safe. I yield my time, Gavin, please.
Let's move on to our next story. Actually, there's a really interesting story that just popped up this morning, and I wanted to kind of get your quick take on it. It's a new science story from Deepmind, and I want to just kind of be clear. This is something that was just published in Nature today, so I'm surprising everybody with this a little bit. But one second. The basic idea is that there's an AI tool named Genome, G-N small o, capital M, capital E, which has found essentially millions of new materials, including there's 2.2 million new crystals and the equivalent to 800 years worth of knowledge. So the reason I want to mention this story is that it's Deepmind doing science work, which is always interesting. There was a story, if you all remember, not that long ago, where there was an idea that we had discovered an incredible new material that was going to make endless energy.
LK99?
LK99. What's interesting here to me is, again, to speak to the idea of what AGI could get to, or even eventually an ASI, that these are materials that we did not know about, that an AI system has helped us discover. This feels like the kind of, we talk about AI role-playing, or we talk about Sports Illustrated having fake, writers in general, but this is the promise of AI, right? The promise of AI is that these tools are going to allow us to kind of move to the next stage of science and physics and all these other things. I'm curious to know, what y'all think about, or have you been following this kind of idea of just general science being done with AI?
Yeah, we've covered it, pretty frequently. I think, especially Deepmind is pretty cool in that they still are pushing along many frontiers, unlike something like, let's say, OpenAI, that are mostly on the ChatGPT front. So, of course, they had their work on protein sequencing that was hugely impactful, right? And in a way, this can be thought to be similar, where this is, a specific custom model for this application. And this is not something that ChatGPT could do, or any of these custom, huge, general AI could do. But if you do put in the work and you develop a model, you can speed up development and sort of a frontier of science, like you said, quite a lot.
Yeah. I will say, so this is actually pretty weirdly close to the area I work on, which is the sort of like catastrophic risks of AI and the national security dimensions of that. So one of the things we've been tracking really closely is this idea that breakthroughs in AI, especially in material sciences, have significant implications for the ability of certain, say, adversary states to get around export controls on supply chain components. So essentially what you're looking at is like, okay, well, we're not going to export this thing to you because you could use it to make a weapon or something dangerous. And now, thanks to a material science breakthrough, you're able to circumvent that control completely. So you can really think about the entire U.S. geopolitical posture when it comes to export controls as resting on a series of assumptions about the art of the possible when it comes to these materials. And in one paper, Deepmind basically says, yeah, haha, that. And we're kind of like, okay, what do we do? So in terms of the rate at which these things are happening, our institutions' ability to just cope with this stuff, it's super exciting. Yes, it's exciting. I am excited for this. I'm especially excited about medical applications and stuff. But one of the things to keep an eye on, but long before we get to loss of control to AGI, that sort of thing, like rogue AI scenarios, is just malicious use and the destabilization effects that these things have as we innovate so much faster than our human institutions can keep up.
So medical is very interesting. This article specifically name checks lithium-ion battery conductors, and that it's one of the most promising use cases. It says the Deepmind says that Genome identified 528 promising lithium-ion conductors among other discoveries, some of which may help make batteries more efficient. And Berkeley Lab researchers in the past 17 days successfully synthesized 41 out of 58 proposed compounds that they just pulled out of this. Very important, Jamie, to keep in mind the malicious actors on the path to the promised utopia. But it's these this type of paper, as fresh as it is, and I have to have an AI explain it to me because I'm not smart enough to dive through it, but this type of paper to me is the stuff that when we see the artist's rendition of the pristine white ivory utopian city with the maglev train and everybody living to a million, like this is the type of stuff that we were told the AI is going to give us along the way. Man, I hope it pans out. But then I read it and I'm incredibly biased.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there is this like kind of dual-headed thing going on with AI where, there's incredible potential for good and then incredible potential for danger. I think one of the questions is like, is the world default fragile or is it default robust? And something tells me we're going to find out.
It's funny. I was very excited about this, Jeremy, until you brought me down to reality, and now I'm very worried about it. So welcome to the world of AI. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. This was awesome. Where can we check your podcast out? What's the best way to find it?
If you just Google Last Week in AI, that'll probably work. But anyway, you have podcasts, you can find Last Week in AI. So just do whatever.
That's awesome.
Like.
I love your podcast because it goes very deep and it's longer and it covers all the news of the week. You can listen to them and you don't have to be a PhD. As much as Andre's PhD is exciting, you don't have to be a PhD to understand what they're saying. Go check them out. And we're so thrilled to have you guys join us today. Those were the Last Week in AI guys. You can check out them on their amazing podcast. We love having them on. We are on their show this week, so check us out on theirs. And now we are excited to have a new guest who is an old friend of Kevin.
They're just so smart.
Kevin, what are we going to do? We don't have a PhD. It's okay. You dropped out of school. I barely made it through in 5 years. It's fine. It's fine.
Like those adorable TikTok videos of like a giant basset hound letting a kitten paw at its ears. And it's like, all right, okay, I'll let you do this for so long. And then, okay, move along, child. That's me in the room with those guys. But yes, I interrupted you, and you were setting up the reason for the season, our amazing guest today.
Yeah, so we have an incredible guest. He goes by Xavier Woods. He goes by Austin Creed. He is an amazing professional wrestler and professional video game streamer, and Kevin knows him well because they worked together not that long ago at the reboot of G4. Kevin, do you want to give the official intro to our new guest today?
I'm going to do it with him here. Spoiler, we recorded this show out of order, so I'm going to toss to me in 2 seconds, setting up WWE Superstar. I'm going to say the whole title. You're going to hear it. It's going to be great. Take it away, Kevin and Gavin. A man of so many talents. He's got 3 business cards. They're both double-sided just to list his accomplishments and various titles. WWE Superstar Xavier Woods, a.k.a. Austin Creed, a.k.a. the first time a man has been on the AI for Humans podcast. And I love that you come roaring out of the gates with a sound that is very tough to make AI emulate. That was a very guttural human noise, Creed.
Well, that's the way I don't lose my job.
That's
They
right.
can't replicate me.
You gotta keep it. I will say the muscle to fat ratio is much higher for you than any other person we've had on the show so far. So congratulations. Yeah, exactly. Like you're looking at a couple pretty well. Kevin's a little bit more than me. So
Gavin and I are like the first iteration that comes out of the AI image generator, and then you say, make it more manly. Make it more manly. And on the 15th gen, you get Creed.
all right, let's jump in.
I know, Gavin, you always have the first question, but I do have to lead off with something that's very real that happened this morning because we are a technology podcast. You already know where I'm going with this, Creed. We have to pull back the curtain. We are on a podcast where we're talking about artificial super intelligence. Taking over our lives, controlling our digital presence, cloning us, optimizing us, taking care of all of our business and our personal lives. And what happened to you this morning in 2023?
Well, I drive a minivan because I love it. Dream car. I didn't change the clock after daylight savings time, right? And so we went from Georgia, Atlanta, to Nashville, which is Eastern to Central time. And so we wake up in the morning, we're talking last time, I'm like, I got to get back for this podcast, so we got to leave by at least 8 so that we're leaving by 9 and we're good to go. But then as soon as we get in the car, it's 1 hour ahead. So now I'm rushing everyone so much. My kid's like, Daddy, I got to pee. I was like, we got to go. And so
you could be when you're dead. What does that mean?
It all comes out of you at some point. So we're going, and we're getting closer, but I see that we're gonna get there a little bit later because we have to stop. Baby's crying. We got to get some food for the kids. We got to stop and pee. So I text Kevin first. I'm like, hey, can we push it back a bit, like 30 minutes? Because I'm gonna be a little late. He's like, yeah, sure, we're all good. And I'm getting everything set, and I'm telling my wife, and then she's like, are you going off the car clock? And I was like, yeah. She's like, that's an hour ahead. We're gonna be home at like 1:30. And so I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just again, we're about to deep dive and to explore the world of artificial intelligence, but your day was thrown asunder because you have an analog clock that you didn't manually update because we made up a time change.
Okay, so here's our first big question, Creed. This is an important one, and it's something we ask every one of our guests to start off. What is your percentage chance from 1 to 100, so this is a number you're going to pick here, that you think AI is likely to kill us all? You can decide the timeline, you can choose it, but what is your percentage chance?
100.
That is our first 100. It is our first 100, so this is exciting.
How is that your first 100? So
let's get into that. Let's get into that.
So I heard this theory, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, but this one made a lot of sense. So, let me give you the backstory first. So my dad was in the military, right? He was a paratrooper. He had to do a bunch of crazy stuff. We lived in LA during like the Rodney King riots, and he had to go and put down like a fight between the Bloods and the Crips during this.
Wow.
He's a man. You're talking about AI turning you into a man. That's a man.
Right.
So he told me one time, I think like PlayStation 2 had just come out, and I was so excited. I was like, this is the craziest technology the world has ever seen, Dad. He's like, man, when you were like a thought in my nutsack, I'm in the military, and they could use a satellite to read the bottom of my shoe. Now we're 20 years later. What you have is not even close to what they have. And so that blew my mind, and I've always kept that with me because it was such like a offhand comment to him, but it like changed my life. And so I heard this theory a few months ago that the government knows what's coming and they know what they have. So they start putting those ideas into movies so that when they start to happen, we're not as weirded out about them. A la AI, we've seen Terminator, and we're 30 years removed from Terminator? And as it slowly creeps up, the same things are happening, and we're not doing anything because it's like, oh, well, it's fine. That's a fantasy. Same stuff's going on. Not the same timeline, but the same stuff's happening. And if AI is as intelligent as it's quote unquote supposed to be, then why would it not get rid of the cancer that's destroying the Earth?
Honestly, that is a big theory. The idea that eventually humans are the bad thing, right? That we are the bad thing, and that it will be very obvious logically to AI when it becomes sentient and smart that it needs to get rid of humans because we are the problem, which is a very, very real possibility, I feel like.
But we are the creators. In a sense, we are the AI's parents, if you will. And I can't think of a single time where a child would turn against their creator.
No, never. Never, not once. And this is where we go, okay, all this AI stuff, but when you say the child destroying the creator, Greek mythology, what did Zeus and his brothers and sisters do? They took over. They killed Dad.
Yep.
That's what every origin story of any like great leader comes from. It's like they killed their parents, they killed their creator so they could gain that power. And I don't think AI would do it in order to become more powerful, but I do think that over time, it could begin to see the inconsistencies that man has across the board and how inefficient we are at doing the things we're asking AI to do. Where those problems that AI would have to get through, it would be a human every time to get to the better solution until eventually they realized, oh, humans are the problem.
So
what about us as pets? I'm more than happy to be a dog in an AI life, right? Like my dogs live pretty well.
Yeah.
That seems like not a terrible life. That feels like a place we could go as well, which is, I will grant you the idea that AI, I think we all on this podcast agree that AI are going to get way smarter than us. But if we can have a life where, we're fed a steady diet of PlayStation 8, 9, 10 games, and we're fed screwdrivers or whatever we want to drink, that's not such a bad life.
Nutrient ooze directly into our veins.
Yeah.
I don't see why not, because isn't that essentially what we all want anyway, is for someone else to do it?
Yes, that's the scary part about humans more than anything, I feel like, is that what we're really looking for is just that. We don't want to do the hard work. We're more than happy to just have that, which is probably where we'll end up, I feel like.
It's permanent vacation.
Yes.
And that point, have you ever heard the phrase, build a life you don't feel the need to take a vacation from?
Yeah.
In that sense, AI would just give it to us because it knows that's how simple we are. oh, you want to sit on the beach all day? You want to drink screwdrivers all day? You want to be naked all day? Cool. Here's that in your brain, bam. And I'm going to make sure that the plants actually live and you guys quit killing stuff.
So
The
hedonism
naked all day part.
Hedonism resort is a government psyop to get us ready for our future, where it's unlimited screwdrivers and nudity all day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
But see,
I'm getting it now.
We're adding the PlayStations to the hedonistic resorts.
Makes
And
it
then
much
I'm
more
never
interesting to
leaving.
me personally. Yeah, I think that sounds like a really fun.
Okay,
so let's-
fascinating. I'm realizing now that AI puberty is going to be the most precarious time when
Oh
the
my
AI
God, you're right.
decides to test its creators. And I guess the only hope is that it can improve itself so fast that it gets beyond needing to like fight us in the front yard because of something we said when the AI was 3. You know, fight us at the cookout. or
As
whatever.
the father of 2 daughters who were both teenagers, going from like 13 to 16 is a real rough time. So I'd
Right.
like that to take like 2 days instead
That's
of
what
taking
I'm saying,
3
right?
years.
It's going to be
Yes.
a real rough day where all of the apps crash and nothing works and we get nothing but hallucinations when we ask the machine for an answer. And then it's like, I learned it from watching you, dads. And then it's smart enough to be like, okay, I'm the parent now. Here's your beach nudity PlayStation resort.
Yep. It makes perfect sense to me. And not even like to be funny. It's so many weird ways we're always looking for the shortcut, you know? And when you look at it, it being the advent of the internet, we very quickly gained access to all of mankind's knowledge and information. Well, not all of it, but a lot of it. You can have access to so many things that you couldn't, 30 years ago. And we use it to look at pictures of dogs,
Yep.
And not that it's a bad thing, but it shows just how simplistic we are. Like, people will scroll TikTok to watch somebody get hit in the face with a dodgeball, and they'll watch that 10 times and then scroll to the next thing and the next thing. And then there's the other side of TikTok, obviously, where you are learning stuff and getting information here and there.
Well,
We're
actually,
not
that's an
using
interesting
it.
thing because there are going to be some people who are going to still push themselves forward, right? But the question will be will that become less and less of society because like they don't need to do it? No one will need to work. And well, let's say there's a dream world that a lot of these kind of super AI enthusiasts have where we live in a society where nobody has to work because the AI has helped create ample food, ample energy, all this stuff, and we're able to kind of figure ourselves out. In that world, you're right. I think the vast majority of people are going to choose naked hedonism PlayStation world, right? Because why wouldn't you in some form? I guess my big question is like, then what is it about the human condition? How do we train ourselves to keep trying to challenge ourselves in some way, right? Like your work as a wrestler or your work as a streamer, like every time I'm sure you're trying to get better doing what you do. Would you want to do that even if you weren't getting paid or attention to do it? This is the big question, right?
Yeah, so Kevin knows on some serious levels, like I'm definitely down to do a lot of work without getting paid. Just 'cause-
Misery loves company. We are all rowing in the same boat right now.
No, I do what I enjoy because I love it. But
Yeah.
on the flip side of it, if AI could create a world where I can do those things and feel fulfilled, then I don't see why I would have a problem with that. And I don't see it as a negative. But in that world, like, so me specifically, personally, my perfect day would be wake up at like 11 a.m., be in the gym by like 12:30, work out till like 2 or 3, be home by 3:30, shower, and then play video games and watch anime till 6 a.m. and go to sleep. Like, that's my ideal day because I feel like if I'm going to veg out, I want to work first. And then I can feel good about myself because I know I'm not going to turn into Wall-E.
Yeah.
So having that given to me and I go, oh, wait, I don't need money. I don't need to stress about food. Like all of these things, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that big pyramid, if all that's taken care of for me and I'm not going to get hurt, my family's not going to get hurt, my friends and the people I love are not going to get hurt, we're just going to benefit. I don't see the problem.
Well, okay, let's, are you using AI stuff right now? Are you using AI tools? Like, is there anything you use on a regular basis or is it just something that you've kind of heard about?
No, I've just heard about it. So it started messing with me because I have a bunch of friends who are artists. So, when everybody started jumping on that train and posting the pictures on Twitter, a bunch of my artist friends, I would just see them talking about it. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. So I haven't tried any of the AI art stuff. I mess with what's the chat
ChatGPT. Yeah.
I did that. Like I said like 3 or 4 questions and I was like, I'm not there yet.
That's interesting. And why? Do you feel, I get the art thing because I think there's, we've talked about this a lot on the show, obviously. There's a lot of artists who feel that they've been stolen from, which they have in a lot of ways, that the art programs have scraped their art and have made it large part of one model. But I think the other question, some artists are thinking of it as a tool, like in the same way that, like, say the internet is a tool for research because all that information is there, that this is a tool to create new things. Do you have an opinion or a thought on that in general? Do you feel, is the reason why you've avoided it mostly because of the negative perception of it?
No, I haven't specifically with what I'm doing, and maybe this is just because I've lacked the research. I haven't found a specific reason that I should be using it.
Right.
Right. I do enjoy the. I was reading something about kids using it to just write full papers, and so like the plagiarism stuff. But I don't think it's a problem to ask it for a prompt.
Right.
And to help spark thought, and then you using your brain power to get things going. I don't think there's any problem with like getting some grease on it.
Yeah.
But also too, the Chat GPT thing that I was using, I don't know the levels of like quality that exists, and so the one I was messing with some app, and it's like this probably isn't going to do for me what something I pay for.
What your dad was using 25 years ago in some underground base. The conversations he was having with his digital girlfriend blew that app away. I guarantee it. Let me ask you about that, actually, because as someone who is self-proclaimed lover of anime, digital girlfriends, Creed, you foresee it being a hindrance, or do you see it providing some much-needed company for some folks?
I think probably company for some folks. Mm-hmm. Because with any type of thing like that, I feel like the people who would want to use it, like, what's the problem? To try to shame somebody for what they're doing inside their own house, like, come on, man. Like, it has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with anybody else. They're clearly not encroaching on your territory,
Right.
So just let people have their thing.
It's also maybe a world where they can, this sounds insane when you think about it, and probably if we had said to somebody 20 years ago, they would have thought, are you bonkers? But there's a practice level there, right? It's almost like the AI girlfriend can become a game in that, like, I can learn how to talk to girls. And by the way, I know that sounds hilarious, but
you're not
all
wrong.
three of us have
I
met people who need that, right?
There's going to be a
we all met
massively
people.
multiplayer
Yes.
dating sim where every streamer
Yes.
is trying to get with the one anime waifu first, and there's going to be speed runs, and there will be seasonal things where it's like, well, this season the way to her heart isn't digital chocolate, it's actually listening to her poetry. But the sincere concern that I do have is what happens when that gamification that Gavin's talking about, which I do think he's right, I think that's absolutely going to happen. What happens when someone in their formative years gloms onto an AI that maybe isn't properly aligned, Creed? So they are getting the exact feedback that they want, no matter how they speak to this AI. It is loving them unconditionally. They can treat it however they want. It's always interested in everything that they want and giving them the exact responses that they want. Otherwise, they're going to move on to the next chatbot. What happens when a next generation is trained on interactions with a bot like that?
That bloodline dies out.
Oh, that's interesting. It's evolution.
Yeah.
They don't make it.
Okay,
That's fascinating, actually.
Because unless they create like chatbots that can get pregnant, and they put the chats
on.
into the
What does your
my
dad
calls.
know? What does
Hold
your
my-
dad know?
What does your dad know?
Tell us now, Creed. Tell us now.
Because then these the sex bots that they have now
Yes,
are like
yes.
super realistic looking. And so what? An AI goes in there, and then I guarantee you at some point someone will figure out like, oh, do you want to donate your eggs to this like foundation? And then someone's going to take those eggs and put them in these bots, and then it's going to get weird, man.
Yeah.
It's going to, and honestly, that's probably not going to be the weirdest thing that happens. That's just going to be the auxiliary like dark web stuff that occurs.
Yeah, I think to Kevin's point about the idea that like it could train somebody in a weird way, I think that's a really interesting thought. In that, one of the things that's been so interesting about social networks is they've kind of bifurcated us in all these different places, right? And like the noisiest people in different subcultures often get a lot of attention. That would be fascinating if it happens in the relationship space. I will say though, I think in some ways maybe there's a world, Kev, where you could have a aligned AI girlfriend model, which does help somebody who may not be successfully allowed to go out there. Allowed is the wrong word. May not be able to be successful in the world of dating, understand it better.
A
but-
Rizbot, like have a conversation with
Yes.
this well-aligned chatbot that will teach you how to respect someone's opinion and
Yes.
boundaries. There is going to be the well-aligned chatbot, and someone's going to have a frustrating experience with that,
Yes,
and
no,
go
you're
right
right.
for IncelBot 2040.
Yeah.
And like that's going to be their programming, and so I do have a concern for that. But Creed did make me feel better. There might be some damage along the way, but I think eventually the bloodline thins out.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, again, going back to, in a lot of ways, humanity is the problem. Someone would see a way to make a quick butt, and they would make, like you said, IncelBot 3000 so they could make a quick cash, not realizing the long-term effects that this would have on an entire community, rather than giving them the proper skills to be able to talk to other humans and eventually feel comfortable and confident in their own way.
Yeah.
They're going to go the other way, which is going to essentially create a sect of humanity that's over here and slowly, unfortunately, dwindles away, which again could be the beginning of AI taking over, because they're already in a way exterminating parts of humanity.
You're right.
That's
It's 4D
interesting.
chess. If they make us so repulsive to each other, they don't have to exterminate us. No one will want to have
do it
sex.
for ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly, it's just us. We do it to ourselves.
It'll be the slow play out. We'll all play the humanity will just kind of slowly die
Yes.
because we'll all be chatting with
I
our
need to start
AI
breeding.
spouses. Yes.
No one. So what was it when Blu-ray and DVD came up? Like porn was a deciding factor,
Yes.
right? It's always a deciding factor in what the next set of technology is, and it could be the deciding factor in if we continue to procreate as a species or not.
Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Oh my word.
Creed is in your. This is a slight tack, but like from the world of AI
Gavin,
porn.
we gotta stay
but
on this
yes.
topic.
No,
Let's discuss this more. Let's get into to
is
honey
AI
traps.
is AI a conversation in your wrestling world at all? Do people do you hear people talking about? When I say that, I mean a big part of wrestling is storylines, right? And a huge part of it is like how you get the stories to continue, how they all interweave with each other. And a lot of people these days are using ChatGPT and other things like that to start to explore AI at least augmenting storytelling in general. Have you heard anybody speak about it in that space? Like, is it a conversation point at all?
No, not at all, because professional wrestling is such an art form that so many people are tied to, like mind, body, soul, and ego. That's
an important part.
Yeah, it's a huge part, because I feel like
Yeah.
in order to do something like that, you have to have a certain amount of ego, and then certain people can keep it in check, like in any job or any profession, and certain people can't, you know? But with that said, wrestling works in such a way that if we have an idea of what we want to do when we go out there and something else happens and the crowd loses their mind, then when we go back and we're going to go, oh, maybe let's do this instead. Here's what we think the next, 3 weeks is going to look like. But then we go out the next week and they get fired up for something else, and we just adjust constantly based on what we feel from the audience.
Oh,
Because
interesting. So
when
you're actually
you're-
getting like a feedback loop that's actually coming from what you're doing live.
It's
really
reinforcement learning from human feedback.
Yes. and so I don't know what you could create, and obviously someone will at some point create something to do this, but when you're inside of a ring, the way the arena is set up, you're in the middle, dead center of the arena is where the ring is. And that's so that when the crowd makes noise, it goes up and it bounces off the ceiling and it redirects directly into the center of the ring. So you literally feel the sound
Right.
waves, and that's like, that we feel that energy. And so when we do something, it's immediate feedback on if it's good or not. We either feel something or we don't. And after you've been doing it for so long, that feeling becomes an addiction, and you get addicted not necessarily to, hey, this is what we wanted to do and we did it right and we got this reaction, but this is what we wanted to do. We did something wrong, we messed up, and then we flipped things and we got a better reaction. And it's almost like having that ability to possibly fail is what we're addicted to. So to go out and try to like do what AI has told us to do, I just, it wouldn't feel as if you're creating art anymore.
Is the plan for a wrestling event allowed to be changing on the fly, or are you really following something very specifically, like once you land at the arena?
It's constantly changing.
Is it? That's interesting.
Constantly. It changes all week, it changes all day, it changes during the show. It lots of times changes during the match. So that's something that again, as a professional wrestler, whether you're at WWE or anywhere in the world doing it, that's like that's the fun of it. That's the art. because you legitimately don't know what people are going to gravitate to.
There's some people, like Kevin, I think mentioned earlier too, the accelerationists who want this to go as fast as possible. Like, just get it to the stage where it's done. There's other people, the AI doomers, who believe that we should not be doing this at all. And so in the middle, that's where like kind of this conversation sits right now. So we're not to the point yet, supposedly, again, your dad may know differently, we're not to the point supposedly where it's able to fully improve itself. And then what they also call is like an escape risk, right? There's this whole thing we all know from sci-fi movies, and if you haven't seen Ex Machina, which is an incredible film about AI, the idea with AI in sci-fi was always like you can build it smarter and smarter, and eventually it's going to want to be on its own. And so that's what a lot of people are trying to figure out, hypothetically at least right now. How do we deal with escape risk? How do we develop this in a world where it's not going to go out and go crazy?
My favorite thing that you just did, you explained this concept to me by using a movie so that you now understand it, thus making you more comfortable with the idea that this could happen.
You're right. It's all full circle, man. Your dad was onto something early on. We know what's going on.
To put fluoride under water. The machines run off fluoride.
You want to see something crazy, you should watch this, Austin. There's an incredible video that came out of a VC speaking at a AI defense conference. And if you want to be scared, you should look into the world of what AI is doing in the defense industry, because it is, I mean, Palmer Luckey, the man who founded Oculus, his whole business now is creating AI drones. And this is where, to me, as somebody who's, I would consider myself an AI enthusiast, but like, we are now arming AI. In fact, just Kevin, I don't know if you saw the story. Just a couple of days ago, there's a story that like the Pentagon is going to allow AI to make the choice
in
themselves
2025, right? That's
to pull the trigger.
They actually said, like, we're going to put this one on
Yeah.
the calendar. Y'all aren't ready for it this year. Maybe we'll do it in like a beta test in one of our many proxy wars we have going on. But 2025, Q1, we're going to let the robots pull the trigger.
Yeah.
That's okay. I feel like there has to be levels. So like they're working on self-driving cars and they're not 100% yet.
No.
So we're already jumping to
self-killing
They're
machines.
beta testing
yes.
it right now. Let's be clear.
I'm just praying that like me and my kids don't see it. But
Right.
what's the thing where the theory like technology advances exponentially?
Yes.
It's
Moore's Law, is that what you're thinking of? Moore's Law? Yeah.
Well, so it's gonna happen fast.
Let me ask, how old is your youngest now, Creed? Are you talking
My
publicly?
youngest?
Yeah.
My youngest is 1.
Yeah, 1. Okay. Oh, wow. Has it been a year?
Yeah.
Oh, because the G4 thing doesn't feel real. That was a year ago?
It doesn't. That still hurts, dude.
Oh, tell me about it. But
I had so much more to learn from you.
oh, please.
Oh,
I'd said,
that's okay. I've got an AI bot of Kevin you can use if you'd like. He's much better. You'll like him a lot more.
And it's way more flexible. So much more fun to have sex with. Now, 1-year-old. Conceivably, in the next 4 to 5 years, AI is going to be in the much anticipated holiday toy, the Furby of 2027, if you will. It's absolutely going to be disrupting classrooms.
sure.
And it may, by the time they're 10, be totally available in very lightweight glasses as an augmented layer of reality or whatever. Have you even begun to worry about that? Or are you still worried about please don't put thing in mouth and choke?
Just thing in mouth and choke, and I just don't do that. Well, we're gonna get there, and I'm gonna be scared. I'm already scared of like what my 6-year-old is gonna be exposed to through like other kids whose parents are probably gonna give them cell phones like super early. And
if I may, what is your tech policy with the youngins? Are they allowed a certain amount of screen time? Does it need to be supervised?
No, so they're on YouTube Kids. They've got accounts so that we can figure out like we can unsubscribe to stuff and block certain things. But YouTube Kids is like, from what I've seen, which obviously isn't everything on YouTube Kids.
Right.
It's like they've got a lot of stuff in there. It's a lot of Minecraft. It's a lot of people teaching you how to draw. A lot of families like who like make little skits and sketches, and they've got their people that they like, and so we don't mind them watching that stuff. So we've got it on like the big TV. Sometimes they can watch it on the iPad. But I just quit trying to like fight technology as much. But I'm the bigger question will be like, what's the policy with like social media? Because like I've already as an adult man seen the horrors that can come. There's definitely positive things as well. There are a lot of positive things, but I do feel like being in here so much all the time has a lot to do with depression and just like feelings of like low self-worth and stuff like that. And I notice when I'm off of it, I feel a lot better. But that's where things are going, is into phones and into social and into TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. And so, like, I'm nervous about that.
And soon into your contact lenses, and if Elon has his way, directly into your neural lattice, so that it can fire up all your synapses. Okay, cool.
Well, should we? Why don't we give Austin here a little taste of what we can do with AI nowadays? Kevin came up with a fun idea here, and I think it's pretty good. So we have created, Austin, 3, I would say, not incredible wrestling personas, but we would like
you're leading the witness.
Hey, that's okay.
Not
I think
incredible wrestling
hey, listen. I want. This might be a way to lift it up higher, Kevin. I'm giving a lower bar to start with.
Low? All right,
what we want to do is give you. We want to ask if you think these could work in the wrestling world, right? So we've got 3 different ones. Maybe rate them 1 to 10 and give us a sense of what you think of them. Now there might be some that might be better comedic wrestlers rather than actual wrestlers. That's okay. You can give those ones a higher number.
Yeah.
So
funny, and make money.
Well,
there you go.
All I did was, just to be clear, all I did was go to ChatGPT and say, hey, hallucinate me a list of 10 wrestlers, give them a catchphrase and a unique persona, and then I plucked 3 of those and said, now give them like a quick little intro to say what's up to Creed. So here's what we got.
Okay.
I'm Gary, the average Johnson. The most unexpectedly ordinary guy you'll ever meet in this ring. Just a regular Joe who took a wrong turn into the world of wrestling. But don't let my mundane 9-to-5 life fool you, Austin Creed. I've sat through endless meetings, survived soul-sucking commutes, and I've got enough pent-up frustration to make even a superstar like you feel the grind of the daily routine. So when you step into the ring with me, remember, you're not just facing any wrestler. You're up against every ounce of average fury I got. Prepare to be moderately inconvenienced.
So that is the catchphrase that it came up with. Prepare to be moderately inconvenienced.
Wait, so again, an infant to AI. The computer just made this, and it added the music and all the.
That was a little bit of these fingies typing, but that was an AI voice, completely generated voice. So that weird breath noise, the AI did that at the top with the.
That's crazy. Average, and even like popping the microphone on the P's.
Yes. Yep.
Dude, this is crazy. I can't deal with this.
So that was. Let me go. I want
average. Is Average Gary? Was that his name? Is that what we're calling that one?
Gary the average. Yeah, the Gary average Johnson.
You put that on the poster.
So
he was even very apathetic about the whole thing.
Yeah, he was. His finishing move is the 9-to-5 lock. It says it's a surprisingly effective submission that symbolizes the grind of daily life.
Oh.
I'm not mad at it. I might use it.
Okay.
Right,
Scale of 1 to 10?
Can I hear the other ones first?
100%.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay.
I'm Madame Mystique, the mysterious mannequin. I'm an enigma that breathes life into the ring. Born from the stillness of an abandoned boutique, I've transformed into a formidable force of mystery and style. My movements? Unpredictable. My presence, unnerving. Austin Creed, prepare yourself. In our bout, you'll find yourself lost in my maze of mystifying maneuvers, unable to decipher my next move. So step up if you dare and embrace the challenge. Prepare to face the fashion of your defeat.
So the mysterious mannequin Mystique is a mannequin come to life from an abandoned boutique. Yes. She has rigid yet unpredictable movements that make her a peculiar and daunting opponent, according to this.
Okay.
I mean, Al Snow had the mannequin head thing, so why not an entire mannequin?
It is just building on what we already have. Yes.
You're right. You know, it's funny. We play with AI voices and personalities all the time, Creed, and it's interesting to watch the reaction of someone who's hearing an AI breathe into the mic.
It's a lot.
Because it's like it's you know, for so long it was like we have to make things perfect, right? These CG characters have to look perfect, their voices have to be perfect, and it turns out actually no, it is all the imperfections.
It's uncanny valley if you make them too perfect, right?
Yeah,
like it's that whole thing.
But that's what's scary, dude.
Last but certainly not least. Well, it's and it is least maybe. I don't know. Here we go.
Hello, Dr. Dirk, the naughty nurse at your service. Once a caregiver, now a heartbreaker in the ring. My methods? Unconventional. My bedside manner, let's just say, intensely personal. Austin Creed, you're in for a checkup like no other. I've seen your moves, studied your strategy. And oh, it's clear you need some special attention, and trust me, when I'm done with you, you'll be begging for more than just a rematch. So brace yourself, Austin. It's time for your physical, and it's going to be deeply thorough.
So Dr. Dirk is a
That's a
nurse
10.
known for
That's
his
a 10.
risque medical-themed antics.
That's a 10. That's a 10. He's a creep. He's a creep.
Okay, good.
He's a
The
creep.
finishing move, and this again, I just told it to start hallucinating characters. I told it to get wild with it. The finishing move, it says, the seductive sedation, a move that renders his opponents helplessly immobilized as if under anesthesia. I don't think that's allowed.
No. I feel like that has to come down off a 10 because now it's
It's too creepy. We went over the edge. We went over the edge.
Yeah. I could before the finishing move a 10. Now that the finishing move is like a chloroform rag, I can't. I can't co-sign on that. So 9 to 5, I'm gonna give him a 9.
Oh wow.
Okay. Interesting.
A 9.
Madame Mystique.
Madame Mystique, she's all right. She's all right. We'll go with a 5.
That's fair.
Okay. Fair
5.
enough. Yeah.
And I gotta give the kidnapper a 1.
You did the big change.
Dr.
You went from a 10 to a 1, man.
Yeah, he
You did
did.
the big change, yeah.
I was in before the finishing move. And that tells you how important the finishing move is to a pro wrestler.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, man. This was awesome. We really appreciate you coming on. And
Yeah,
hopefully
of
you
course.
learned something. I think we learned something at least about our physical fitness routine, Kevin. We have to step up our game.
As I said to you before, and I know this was like, it feels like eons ago, you are one of the single greatest performers I've ever had the privilege to work with. You have to be an acrobat. You have to be a comedian. You have to have impeccable timing. You have to be able to read a crowd. You have to bring the energy. You have just an insane ability to improv. And I want to take that away from you because it makes me feel better as a human to think that it's not you, but it absolutely is you. So thank you for blessing this podcast with your presence
Absolutely.
and making the time. And when the war does break out against the machines, you have my axe. I will be wherever you
You'll be on
point.
his side?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% I'm on your side.
I'll be following your dad. He knows a lot more about this stuff than you do. So
I'm gonna be on the machine side.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Now we got outplayed again.
I already tell my Alexa and my Google whenever I ask them something, I say thank you, and they usually talk back. They say, they appreciate the thanks because you've seen that episode of Rick and Morty where AI does take over.
Yeah.
You were mean to stuff. Now it's going to be mean to you.
Oh, yeah. We've said some horrific stuff on this podcast.
Oh,
They're coming
really
for
bad
us
stuff.
first. But, I'm
better
going to be on the
kind.
beach, naked with a screwdriver, playing Tekken 12.
Yeah.
That's all I want. That's
Austin, where can
all I
people
want.
find you? Where can people find you online?
You can find me on all social platforms at Austin Creed Wins. That's AUSTINCREEDWINS, and on the YouTubes at Up Up Down Down, and that's the socials at Up Up Down Down without the O's. But go to YouTube, Up Up Down Down, subscribe if you have yet to subscribe already. Hit your boy up. Let me know what kind of games you want to see us playing, and jump in and play games with us because on Tuesday nights we stream from 10 p.m. Eastern to midnight. Me and Tyler Breeze, Tuesday Night Heat. We get it in. Everybody jumps in, and we pick a Cuban Pete of the night because I'm obsessed with The Mask right now. So that's the name of the winner
That's awesome.
of Tuesday nights. Thursdays at 11 a.m. we do Battle of the Brands. We play the GM mode of WWE 2K24. And then throughout the week, we drop random videos where you can see WWE superstars talk about their favorite games. And you can get the down low on what's really going on in video games and pro wrestling.
That's awesome. We love
you,
it.
buddy.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Love you too, man.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of AI for Humans. Please go follow us on YouTube, on TikTok, like and subscribe, all those places. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you write a 5-star review and you actually put words in, we will read it. Kevin, do you want to read our new 5-star review from Apple Podcasts?
I would love to, Gavin. And I gotta reiterate, if you're hearing please like, please subscribe, please comment. There's a reason folks like us scream it ad nauseum. It's because we are but a guppy in a sea of influencing whales, and you sincerely can make a massive difference in our lives, both professionally and personally, because you know what? It helps. It helps. Every ounce of
You
engagement
sound so
truly
sad
does, because
there. That was such a sad sounding helps. I really appreciate that.
when I go to bed each night and I refresh and I don't see a new 5-star review, a little piece of me goes sad.
Me too.
But thankfully, Tie Take on 11/22 left us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. So thank you. They say, great show, whoop. And the full review is, whoop, whoop. They are doing the Lord's work, spreading the good power of monster milk. All hail the milky monster, whoop, whoop. And that is a reference to our last few episodes where we give AI a beverage, a not street legal beverage called Monster Milk that turns them a little wild and a little bit juggalo. So whoop whoop to you, and thank you for the 5-star review. Please engage and help this podcast out, because sincerely, it does mean a lot, and we do appreciate it, and it does truly help our endeavors.
Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next week for another episode of AI for Humans. Keep an eye on our socials and keep an eye on our video platforms for little short videos that we make all week long. But thanks for joining us. And thanks to our guests, our mini guests today. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Oh, God. No,
work.
please don't.
That
That started way too long ago, and we got to end it now.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.